It is kind of sad that it's going to be coming to an end soon, though. That is a little sad.
But we got the real deal then coming up.
Yeah, then we get to do it for real. Then we get to stop pretending. Now we start separating the contenders from the pretenders.
Let me get the actual thing shared here before we got less than a minute to go here. Very excited.
Got a full room today. Got 12 people in here. Although Silver Fox says he's on auto draft, so if he's watching this, you might want to switch off of that.
No. Stay there. Stay there.
Yeah, Silver Fox is okay to be on auto draft. We don't. Yeah, you can stay there. We don't need. We love a good competition, but you've kind of schooled us recently. So
you've done well, bud.
Well, the three of us are cornering up the end of the draft. I'll be going 9th, Chris 11th, and then Adam 12th. I'd love to see that you guys, steal each other's picks.
I mean, Chris is a little bit later than usual, so we'll see how that goes. We're probably going to be sniping at each other as we have been the last couple of weeks. I mean, we've had weeks where we've been good, and we've had weeks where we've gone at each other. Let's see what happens this week.
I feel like there's not been that much sniping during this portions of the draft the last couple weeks.
Well, there's always time. Let's see what happens today. And we
are Draisaitl too.
We are underway. So there's Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl too. Sometimes you see Austin Matthews go number 2. I've seen that, but Draisaitl hasn't gone 2 in a while since probably last year. But I don't hate it. It's not like taking Pasternak 2, where that may be a little bit early for him.
Or Quinn Hughes 3rd or 4th or something like that.
Yeah. So here we go. So we got McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon, Matthews, Pasternak, Kucherov falling all the way down to 6. So some people not agreeing with our take on Nikita. There goes Jack Hughes to Cameron at number 7. Mikko Rantanen going 8. So the 3 right wings off the board early here with Anthony on the clock at pick 1.9. See what he does here. It's a lot of directions you could go here. It's a 12-teamer, so things go a little deeper. And he gets the number 1 defenseman off the board, getting Cale Makar there.
Yep, that's where he goes.
And you could probably, if you wanted to wait for Hughes on the turn, you could. But I mean, what's the point at that point? You may as well just get Makar, and then you're going to get a quality forward on the 2nd-round pick there.
Well, yeah.
So Chris on the clock here. JT Miller went to Steve. Certainly a good pick there.
You guys just won't let me have Cale Makar. I went too far back.
So Silver Fox saying he took the 4th spot for Draisaitl, assuming it would be a McDavid, McKinnon, Matthews. So I sniped out of the gates for him. I'm on the clock here. I can't not take him when he's available. Brady Tkachuk. I've got shares of him in multiple leagues. He just, like we talked about in the left wing episode, fills out the stat sheet. Got to grab him there. Now where do I go for my next pick? Here's the thing. It's going to be a long, long time before this gets back to me. I like to have a cornerstone defenseman here. So the question is, am I going Bouchard or am I going Quinn Hughes? You know what? I'm going Bouch. Why not? I'm going to take Bouchard over Hughes because of that power play unit. Hughes will probably have more assists. He's the better overall player. But I think from a fantasy perspective, Bouchard maybe just an edge over Hughes. But I mean, we had Hughes number 2 in our rankings. So there goes Kaprizov. So a Nylander, Kaprizov, right wing, left wing out of the gate. Certainly not a bad way to start for Chris.
In my books, it would have been Cale Makar, Kirill Kaprizov, but that's just not how. That's not how this draft is. I have now gotten Cale Makar once in these. What is this, mock number 9? Yep. It seems really tough. If I guess if I'm not picking 9th, then I'm never getting him.
Chris is going to take like the 6th spot and take Makar in next week's mock just to make sure he gets him.
Or who knows? Maybe Cale Makar goes first next draft just for funsies.
Just for fun. Yeah. Somebody's going to take him. Hey, look, if Quinn can go 4th, I'm assuming Cale Makar could as well. Somebody will do it.
So here we go. So just to recap the picks since Kaprizov, Quinn Hughes goes 1 pick after I took Bouchard. So we got a Vancouver double dip with Steve with JT Miller and Quinn Hughes. Then Matthew Tkachuk, our 4th ranked right wing to Anthony. Mikko Rantanen and Artemi Panarin 1-2 for Kevin there at pick 2-5. First goalie off the board to Cameron, Igor Shesterkin there. So he's got a Jack Hughes, Shesterkin pairing to start. There goes Roman Josi. to Matthew, who pairs him with Kucherov. Elias Pettersson just goes off the board there at pick 2.8 to Mark, who has David Pastrnak, and now Silver Fox, Craig on the clock here. Did not get Draisaitl at 4 like he was hoping. So there he goes. We talked about Rasmus Dahlin earlier in the show. Everything's going to be okay. He takes the 5th defenseman there and has a Matthews Dahlin pairing to open the draft. Not too shabby.
What I like about these drafts are last week, the defensemen didn't go until probably around late 2nd round, early 3rd, they started going. And now the top guys are completely gone.
And that's why a 12-team league, like so it's all about that waiting game. How long can I wait to get the guy I want? In a 12-team league, you have to maybe be a little more conservative in your estimates of how long you can wait. Better to get the guy than not get the guy, because let's say I go goalie or a forward position instead of Bouchard at pick 2.1. I have a whole round before it gets back to me. If any more defensemen go, I mean, like, I don't mean any disrespect to Miro Heiskanen, but like, he's not a number 1 fantasy defenseman to me. He's a top tier number 2, but I don't know if I want him being my number 1 fantasy defenseman.
Yeah.
And speaking of defensemen available, you got Victor Hedman, Adam Fox, Heiskanen, Morrissey, Dobson would be your next 5, whatever order you want. So other Chris, not current Chris, not fuzzy Chris, but other Chris takes McDavid, Crosby, and Reinert out of the gate with his first 3 picks and opens up the 3rd round with Reinert there. Now,
I like how Yahoo has Reinhardt as a centerman. I think he took a couple of faceoffs.
I mean, it's, Anthony and I were talking about this before, before the show, like, hey, in baseball, a guy can play 10 games at second base and then not play in April and never play there again for the rest of the year. But you know what? For next season, he's a second baseman. We'll take that eligibility where we can get it. So after Reinert goes, pick 3.2 to Old Man Dubes, great name, Jeremy Swayman. Hopefully he's there for you Bruins opening night, and that's not a guy you have to stash for a while, because some leagues, it's not an IR position, that's an NA position. So he just wasted a bench spot there. So hopefully he signs before camp. There goes Victor Hedman. Mitch Marner at 3.4 to Craig. UC Saros to Mark. He gets the first goalie, his first goalie. Jason Robertson at 3.6. Adam Fox at 3.7. So Jake Ottinger at 8. So goalies are going. All the top defensemen are pretty much gone at this point for bona fide 1As, as Ant is ready to make his pick and add to Cale Makar or Matthew Tkachuk. Braden Point. So he gets his first center there. I like that pick.
It's a really good start to your team, Ant. That's unfortunate.
I hope I'm not sniping anyone right now.
No, you're just having a good draft is what you're doing. And there goes Hellebuck to Steve. So Chris on the clock now. He's taking a couple of wingers. Let's see what's up next for him.
Come on, Steve.
I know who I'm taking if you don't take him with one of my back-to-backs here. So don't snipe.
Boy.
All right, good job. You did not snipe me. Goalies are going, so let me make sure. Listen, Vasilevsky has a consolation prize as the 6th goalie. Come on now. And it begins. Let's see what.
My team is going to struggle.
I got a couple of different ways I can go here, but I mean, Jack Eichel on the board. It might be I don't want to say a tiny bit early for him, but I mean, I want to make sure I have a bona fide, I might move Tkachuk to left wing, so I'll take Eichel there. And now I know I got a good punch there with Eichel and Tkachuk being my top 2 forwards to go with Bouchard and Vasilevsky. Now, I was considering defense there. Maybe that bites me in the butt. We'll see what happens come end of round 5 for me. Chris has got some decision making to deal with here after I took Vasilevsky. There goes Kempe, a guy who did not make the top 10 right wings, but very well could have. And Chris gets his second right winger there. Now Ant's on the clock.
He's got center position eligibility, though, so I need that because I need a centerman.
There goes Mr. Bedard to Steve. Really, I like the way Steve's team is shaping up, too, as Ant gets on the clock here, as he has Point, Matthew Tkachuk, and Cale Makar. And he takes his boy, Alex Ovechkin. There goes Chris.
Yeah, it was between him and Bedard got sniped. There we go. So we're moving on.
Connor Bedard in a 12-team league does not last past usually the late 3rd round. He went early 4th round there. in a 10-team league, I wouldn't wait past the 4th round for him. There goes Chris Kreider, and then Wyatt Johnston there to Cameron with Matthew on the clock. Marek asking, where do you get your reliable info draft picks? Yahoo, Sportsnet, ESTS. It's combination of a lot of them. When I'm looking at numbers and stuff, always look in your league to make sure your settings are properly. It'll calibrate with your settings, but just for general info. I mean, the usual guys that Friedman, and all those guys. TSN is a place I like to go. So there we go. After Johnston, Tage Thompson goes. Tim Stutzel. Jacob Markstrom goes. So he's off the board now. Craig getting his first goalie. There goes Josh Morrissey. We'll see if that maybe starts a run of the, we'll call it the really strong second defenseman with old man Dubes on the clock here. Let's see what he does as the clock is winding down. 3, 2, 1, and he takes Mackenzie Wagar. Somebody mentioned guys they're avoiding earlier in the chat. And I mentioned this when we did defenseman. There's nothing wrong with Weegar, but he's just not a guy that I'm keen on. He's certainly not a guy if you miss out on a bunch of the second tier defensemen. But he's just not for me. He's just not my guy. He's not a guy that I'm really targeting in on. So Connor goes there to other Chris. We'll see how he starts the 5th round with his back-to-back picks. I'm looking at these teams right now. Everybody's got a pretty good team. Everybody's got a strong start here. Carter Verhage goes.
Everybody's been learning. It's good.
Oh, I have my first real draft this Sunday, actually. So looking forward to that. I'll have to post the results online. Let's see here. We got Steven Stamkos and Andrei Svechnikov going at pick 5-3 with Silver Fox Craig on the clock here at 5-4. Only has one defenseman, one center, one wing, one goalie. So he can really just kind of go in a bunch of different directions here with the players available. And he takes Timo Meier, which I think is a strong pick because he's going to get those hits and his numbers are going to be better than last year.
I mean, to be fair, they can't get worse. So
there goes Thatcher Demko. So we talk about, Brock Besser earlier as an injury concern, maybe holding him out of being in the top 10. Demko there, I've seen him be the kind of the guy that straggles amongst goalies and kind of gets left out there. But confidence there as Mark takes him and pairs him with UC Saros, which is a goaltending pairing I've had in a lot of mocks, but usually I would get Demko a little bit later. There goes Dougie Hamilton to Matthew, and then Cameron takes Sasha Barkov at 5-7. Kevin on the clock here has not taken a defenseman or a center yet. And he gets Aho. There you go. That's the pick right there. And now we get to the guys of Total Hockey Now on the clock. Anthony about to make his pick. Took Ovechkin last round. Let's see what he does at pick 5-9 here. You're muted, my friend.
It's definitely time to get a goalie here. So we are going to take Ilya Sorokin.
Take Sorokin. All right. Bobrovsky and Skinner still on the board. Sorokin, if he bounces back, though, can finish top 3, top 5 for sure. There goes Noah Dobson, so back-to-back Islander there. That is a guy who I would have considered at my pick, but he's not there. And Chris takes Sergei Bobrovsky to get his first goalie. I know I just kind of crapped on him a little bit, but at this point, no, I'm not taking. I'm not going to take him. But I do have to decide here because the clock is moving on me. All right, Jesper Bratt. Going to get one of the top 10 right wings there. It says left wing. He's got right wing eligibility as well as a lot of the wingers do on Yahoo. And time to make my second pick here. All right. I'm going to wait on defense and shore up my crease because I feel like if I wait for the draft to get back to me, I'm not going to love my options at goaltending. So Vasilevsky Skinner goaltending pairing should get me the goalie categories almost every week. Could have taken Miro Heiskanen there. I'm rolling the dice that I'll have a good number 2 left for me by the time the draft gets back to me, but I may be chasing defensemen, which is, just another week here at Total Hockey Now for me in a mock draft.
Name a better pairing. Name a better duo than Adam and chasing defensemen.
It's just I'm like a dog with a car. I'm never going to get it, but I'm still going to run after it. Dylan Larkin goes after Skinner there. He's a guy that I haven't been able to get in a lot of mock drafts, but I've been wanting to get him because I feel like as a you as a low grade center one or a top notch center two, he's pretty good. There goes Matthew Barzal, who has right wing eligibility as well. So a couple Islanders back to back there for Steve. Charlie McAvoy to Anthony, another guy I was considering. Sergachev, another guy I was considering, and that's going to be a guy that is a very elusive to me. I'm very high on Mikhail Sergachev this year as a really strong number two defenseman, or even as a potential like low grade number one defenseman, if that's what gets to you towards when it's time for you to get a defenseman.
Speaking of players that we would avoid one round before, Thatcher Demko is the one I want to avoid. He did his press conference. He's basically dealing with an injury. We have no idea what it is. And no other goalie has ever dealt with whatever mystery injury he's had. And he had a setback in his recovery during summer. That's what I heard. And I went, yeah, that's not good, bud. He held a press conference to say nothing. And by saying nothing, he didn't give me anything to feel confident about. So I'm not touching Thatcher Demko with a 10-foot pole right now.
Yeah, if you can have a press conference and say nothing, that makes it worse. I agree. So there, we had a little too much green for my liking here. We're not even on the turn yet, back into round 7 yet. We saw McAvoy, Sergachev, and then Miro Heiskanen go 3 consecutive picks, followed by Linus Olmark at 6.7, and then Morgan Riley going there at 6.8, and then Cole Caulfield and Owen Tippett at 6.9 and 6.10 respectively, with old man Dubes on the clock here. He got Steven Stamkos with his 5th round pick, so we'll see how OMD is doing with other Chris waiting in the wings. And thank you, Marek. We appreciate it.
I don't know if my team is very good.
There goes Sider, and all of a sudden my options for a good number 2 defenseman
They are dwindling, my friend.
They are indeed dwindling. I don't like it.
It's usually about that time, no? When defensemen start ripping off the board.
It's about that time. I'm hoping that because more went earlier than had in recent mocks, that wave kind of settles down for a little bit, because there's one guy left that if I got him, I'd be okay with that as my number 2 defenseman. But I don't know. See.
Well, I don't think he's coming around to you.
Travis Konechny and Rupe Hintz go to other Chris to close round 6 and open round 7. So nice value there. Drafting on the turn, you have to be ready to maybe give up on some guys or say goodbye to guys that you're not going to get, and maybe reach a little bit to get the ones you want. Let's see. Remember, Chris, you are 100% correct.
I mean,
and there goes Shea Theodore to old man Dube. So he takes back-to-back defensive picks there. He's shoring up his blue line. He's got Mackenzie Weegar, Moritz Seider, and Shea Theodore.
I just realized I'm not even the best Chris in this mock draft. Like,
here's the Montour was the guy I wanted. So thanks, Ryan. Forsling goes, and again, my defensive options here are just wonderful. And Brock Faber, come on.
Yeah, that's
I have him as my 3 defensemen on a lot of my mocks.
And that list, huh? All that green again. We're in the same new mock draft, same Adam.
Yeah.
You should have started earlier.
And maybe taking the Skinner pick back, I probably should have just gone Heiskanen or Sergachev there, or McAvoy. But hey, maybe I'll be strong in other areas. Maybe I can make up for it. And there goes Devon Taves. I mean, come on, people. Nick Suzuki.
It's a run now.
It's a run. It's been a run. Oh boy.
10 defensemen have gone since Steve picked last round. This is a 12 team.
Yeah, I'm not going to love my defensive core. 3 picks till my turn. Ant's on the clock here. Let's see what he does. Kevin Fiala, that's one of your guys.
Always nice having Kevin Fiala on the team.
There goes Eric Carlson. So another defenseman goes. The way Chris kind of looked away, that makes me think that was a guy who's considering. He takes Joseph Wall, and now I'm on the clock. Let's see here.
I need a goalie.
All right. First thing I'm going to do is a guy who I had in my top 10 didn't make it on our consensus list, but I know Chris is a little skeptical of them this year. I think for a lot of the Utah players, playing in front of a crowd and a owner that is going to, that actually invests in the team is going to give him a little bit of a boost there. So I'll take them. I can no longer wait on another defenseman. I have to grab one here. I don't love any of these guys as my number 2 defenseman. I'm going to go with Luke Hughes. I know he's hurt, but when he comes back, I think maybe that helps me out a little. Maybe I'll have to IR him. I'm going to be thin at defense to start on this team. If it was a real one, nonetheless, I'm okay with it. I didn't love anybody else there. There goes Boldy, so Chris gets his guy as well. The way Chris likes Matt Boldy is the way I like Clayton Keller. Like it's like exactly the same.
I have Matt Boldy and Kirill Kaprizov on the same team. Just get me that Minnesota Wild jersey.
Now there goes Macklin Celebrini at pick 8.3. I think that's a tad early for him. But if again, it's a little too early for me to start taking shots on guys that I'm confident in. But maybe Celebrini just has that. We know he's winning the Calder by Christmas kind of thing, and he has that kind of season. So we'll see. There goes Jonathan Marchessault, another one of Anthony's guys there. I think he's going to have a nice year in Nashville. I think that's going to be a pleasant signing for them.
Yeah, if he goes along with Steven Stamkos in that second line there, I think that's going to be it's going to be very good for Nashville. That's for sure. Hopefully, good for me.
Defensemen continue to go here. I mean, so look at the amount of green on the screen from round 5 on. Matthias Ekholm, Zach Werenski go after Anthony's picks. There's Mika Zibanejad at 8.7 with Mark on the clock. He takes Alexander Georgiev. That's a guy I'm avoiding. You want to talk about guys we're avoiding in the crease. Like, yes, I know he's going to get wins, and if you're in a league where goalie wins is heavily weighted, then Georgiev is fine. But I don't know. I don't know if he makes it through the season as a starter. Like, yes, I know he played better in the playoffs last year, but if he kind of goes back to his like wishy-washy, like 1 week he's good, 1 week he's bad, I don't know how much the Avalanche put up with that. Maybe Justice Anunin is the guy that they give him a chance. He played well after he had a few rough starts when they first brought him in, but then he really played well after that. So I could see maybe a shift there. I get more defensemen going. Geez, John Carlson, then Joel Eriksson Ek at center. To Ryan, which I really like that pick in the 8th round. Then Jacob Chikrin and Brent Burns on the turn here. People shoring up their blue lines, and I will not be one of them, unfortunately. And there goes Aaron Ekblad. Jeez.
There are no defensemen left.
Is everybody in this mock listening and just like, thumbing their nose at me right now? Like, come on now.
There are no defensemen left. Shut it down.
I might go 0 defensemen the rest of the way here. Noah Hannafin, I mean, geez, this is what we talk about where you have to reach for defensemen sometimes, and this is it. There goes Blake Coleman.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Adam. I'm sorry. I
don't know.
You know what, Chris would have taken him if you didn't. So like, I can't get too mad. There goes Alex to Steve. Good pick there at 9-10. Gonna play on the Red Wings top line.
I get like maybe he wasn't a top 10 right winger, but there's like the disrespect right now to Brock Besser is just a little too strong for my liking here. Like it's just he can't be falling this far in a 12-teamer. That's not okay. I didn't need him, but there's no defenseman left, so I took him.
Here's what I'm doing. Since they're gonna play on the same line, and I already got Bratt, I'm gonna stack Nico Hischier with him, and hopefully get some big nights out of that. And I love Hischier. This is a spot where he's been going. He's not gonna go past the 110 range, maybe 115 if you're lucky. Do I really have to reach for a damn defenseman here? I guess I do.
Couldn't have waited for Nico Hischier.
No, I couldn't have. Waiting has not done well for me today. Taking Drew Doughty at pick 10.1. I mean, as a third defenseman, once Luke Hughes is healthy, and if he maybe usurps that top power play spot from Dougie Hamilton, like some guys are thinking, sure. But silly me taking Evan Bouchard in the 2nd round, thinking I'm going to have a good. No.
You got fooled.
And Yuri Slavkovsky goes there. No surprise there. I'm surprised, for Chris, he gets his shabs of his hair players. Share of Habs players is the right way to pronounce that. Phil Peronik goes another defenseman to Steve. Then Anthony takes Alex Lafreniere. Really strong pick there. If I wasn't so desperate for a
You're frazzled, man. You're frazzled right now.
I am frazzled. If I wasn't just desperate for a defenseman, I would have taken a laugh. There goes Pietrangelo, Freddie Anderson, UPL, Jake Sanderson, Mark Scheifele, or all those picks. That takes us to 10-9. On the clock at 10:10 was Ryan. He takes Seth Jones, and there goes Patrick Kane. Chris on the turn here as we are about to enter round 11. I got to say, this 12-teamer has actually been moving quicker than I thought. This is because everybody's just taking the next best defenseman available, not even thinking about it.
They're just going on the suggested defenseman at the top and just say, okay, that one's left.
I'm not bitter or anything.
No.
All right, so Darcy Kemper, who is a goaltender, that's a strategy I've been going with lately and probably would have better served me today was wait on goalie 2. I'm big on Darcy Kemper this year, and you can usually get him in that 90 to 120 range. Somewhere in that area, you can get him if you wait. So that's what should have been the play I should have done today. I did not. So on the turn, he takes Anthony Stolars, and then 11-2 to Old Man Dubes. He takes Brandon Hagel. After him, Ryan gets Jordan Kyrou at 11.3. Then Shane Gostisbehere at 11.4 to Craig. Pavel Buchnevich at 11.5 to Mark. And back on the clock here is Matthew. He takes Alex Tuck. There goes Nikolai Gilers. Frank Vetrano to Kevin. And now Anthony's on the clock.
Oh, boy. Decisions.
Because of the run of defensemen, there's still some real strong wings out there. And centers, for that matter.
I'm going to go with Tomas Hertl.
Love that pick.
Need another center.
And that's about where he's been going, is around 130 to 140. There goes Bo Horvat.
I've never been sniped so much in my life.
Let's see.
I mean, I don't even have a player lined up.
I'm trying to find a player to line up right now.
Here, let's take a shot here.
Mr. Skinner. My turn.
I think Skinner's going to have a really good year in Edmonton.
Right now, Slade going to play with Draisaitl, according to projections here. All right, you know who I'm going to take, and this is a guy that gets overlooked. Drake Batherson. I know he didn't have the best year last year, but I mean, he hits, he shoots the puck, 27 goals, 39 assists projected. I'm going to take him with one of my picks there. Start filling out my wing, and
I feel like we've had deja vu about Batherson.
Yeah, probably. All right. Do I continue the disrespect to John Tavares, or do I take a different center?
I can continue to disrespect him. It's fine.
All right. So I'm going to take Robert Thomas, top line center in St. Louis. 66 assists last year. We'll see how Jake Neighbors does this year. Let's see if maybe he gets some more goals, and maybe Thomas gets even more assists. So there goes Aiden Hill and Michael Bunting in the next 2 picks. Let's see here. There's a guy I could have taken there that I'm hoping is there when it gets back to me, but probably won't be. Connor Ingram, that was a guy I was considering as a third goalie, but because I invested so heavily in those other 2, I didn't feel like I could spend a 12th round pick on a goaltender there. That's a great pick by you.
Yeah, running out of options with goalie. But if you're telling me Sorokin 1, Connor Ingram 2, and I think Utah's going to have a good year this year. I think it's they finally have their place, like you mentioned earlier. I think it's time.
They invested in the blue line, so that's always going to help your goaltending situation out. So yeah, Connor Ingram goes to Ant, then Brady Shea, Evander Kane, Thomas Harley, Elias Lindholm, Jordan Binnington, John Tavares finally goes at 12.10. Ilya Samsonov, and about to make the last pick of the 12th round is other Chris, and he's got the first pick of round 13. 12-team leagues are no joke. It's deep. I mean, it's 14 teams. I'm in a 14-teamer, and you can't sleep in that league either. But it's a less roster positions as a result to try and balance that out a tad. So Zuccarello goes with his first of the back-to-back picks there on the turn to open up round 13. Let's see what he does. Let's move the board down here. And there goes Yevgeny Malkin and Brock Nelson, and Martin Necas. So good 3 picks in a row right there. Malkin's a guy you can probably buy low, and maybe if he has a little bit of a run sometime in the season, sell him. Get him and sell him.
You know he's going to get hurt. You just don't know when.
Exactly.
But I did have a conversation with somebody about this. I said, hey, if you get a point per game player, but he only plays like 60 games, it's still a point per game. So,
Yeah, I agree. So here we go. I'm trying to figure out where I want to go with some of my remaining picks here. I know who I want if he gets to me. See if that happens. And there's a certain way I like to handle, these mock drafts are only a 4-man bench. So and there goes Valerie Nichushkin and then Mark Stone and Thomas Shabbat. There's a certain way I like to handle it. I don't want to tip my hand with strategy, but I'm not going to be doing a certain thing today just because of the way things have gone. 3 picks till my turn. And I'll reveal what I'm talking about after I make these next 2 picks.
Celebrini went earlier, right?
Celebrini he went round 8, I believe. There goes Matvey Mishkov.
Yep.
Love that pick here. Patrick Line to Steve. Let's see what Chris does. There are some drafts round 13 is probably a good shot to take Mishkov in a 12-teamer. There goes Bowen Byram. So he gets one of the remaining defensemen that's actually halfway decent. All right. This was the guy I wanted last round, and I was able to wait on him and get him. Jake DeBrusk. I think he's going to have a really strong year at Vancouver. A guy you could get later in drafts that could provide some value to you. I can't believe it, the defenseman I'm looking at here. All right. I'm going to take Justin Falk because I think he's going to end up he's going to benefit and get some power play time.
Because he's a defenseman. That's basically that's the criteria right now.
Defensive eligible. That's where we're at this point. There goes Radko Gudas, the new captain there of the Anaheim Ducks. Yeah, because with Torrey Krug out, it looks like Falk is going to be on that top power play unit, so I think he's going to benefit. That's a guy you can maybe, if you're in a situation like me where you waited too long on defenseman, maybe that's a guy that you can grab in these rounds, but actually does okay for you. Jack Quinn going there after Radko Gudas to Steve with Anthony on the clock here, making he's got in the 14th round, he's got 3 picks left to make. Adam Larson, fresh off a contract extension not too long ago. There goes Logan Thompson. Andrei Kopitar, there's some value for you in round 14.
That is some value. Holy.
Him, and there's another center that gets grossly overlooked. And I'll say it because I'm not taking any more centermen. Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's that's a guy that at this stage in the draft, you need a center and you get him. It's like glad I got him. JJ Peterka, Pavel Mintyukov, Jared McCann, all those picks go through 14-9, 14-10, Darnell Nurse, 14-11, Jamie Benn. About to wrap up the 14th round and kick off the 15th round here. We'll see what happens. Now, the strategy I was referring to earlier is with the 4-man bench in these mocks, I like to have a goalie, a defenseman, a center, and then one of the wings, or both, depending upon eligibility. The class of defensemen today, I don't think I'm going to be doing that. I don't think I'm going to be carrying a bench defenseman.
I wonder if they carry stats on how early defensemen were taken in drafts this year versus last year. I feel like the ADPs are gonna they're slowly gonna go up. Like everybody used to just put defensemen later on. They'll be like, we'll get that later. And then everybody listened to us, and now defensemen are just flying off the board here.
Love that pick of Justice Anunin there by Ryan. That's a goalie that I've been snagging as my third. But yeah, I agree. Like it used to be in a draft where people would be like, "Oh, you took a defenseman this early," and now it's like, yeah, you don't. I'm a cautionary tale. Don't end up like Adam.
It's an evergreen segment here. Don't wait on defensemen like Adam.
That would be like my remember the DARE drug program growing up? That would be like my thing that I go into classrooms and talk about. Don't wait on defensemen. Travis Sanheim, also another guy at this stage of the draft that can provide some value. Falk or Sanheim are the two guys that are like, all right, if I could get one of those as my 4, or better yet, as my bench defenseman, great. But after those guys as a number 4, I don't want to play anybody as my 4th defenseman then.
Another good pick there, Shilov. I mean, if Demko is not ready to go and he misses an extended period of time, You basically got a living body to play goal for the Vancouver Canucks. All right, I am going to take a defenseman.
So there goes Nick Schmaltz, Alex Laferriere, and Jeremy Lauzon. He's going to get his hits.
I have cornered the hit market with Radko Gudas and Jeremy Lauzon. That's how this draft has gone for me, if anybody was wondering.
So I take Philip Gustafson as my third goalie. At least we know he's going to get a decent amount of starts in Minnesota, no matter how the season goes. And there's just not a lot left here for me to pick. You know what? I'm taking this guy just solely to flip my finger at Chris. I said I wasn't taking another center, but I did.
That was aggressive. I want everybody to listen carefully here, okay? This is the player you take in the last round, okay? Now, he's not going to pop up here very often, but you heard it here first, okay? We're taking Lane Hudson.
I've seen that name being thrown around. I believe that came up on a Slapshot podcast recently as well.
It may or may not have been a short somewhere. Just pay attention.
There goes Varlamov. Now, Ant, were you considering Varlamov to kind of handcuff him with Sorokin if he was available there?
I wasn't. I was considering who I'm drafting now, and that's the Utah backup goalie.
So there's your handcuff. Good to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, that's the thing with the Lightning or the Oilers. I'm okay with, even if the goal, with your last round pick, taking your handcuff goalie, even if you're like, Jake Allen's not going anywhere in drafts. But if you have Jacob Markstrom and you want to spend your last round pick on Jake Allen, that's not a bad way to go. So I'm never against handcuffing, but with teams where like a Vasilevsky or a Skinner, or they'll play Calvin Pickard a little bit in Edmonton, but it's going to be, that's where I don't do it as much. There goes Dylan Strome, Mason Marchment, Teuvo Teravainen, Martin Popisil, Cam York, who might, maybe get a little more power play time. Maybe he starts to usurp Travis Sanheim a little bit. We got 3 picks to go here before we wrap up this 12-teamer.
You really start considering the goalie tandem once you start seeing where they're going. Like the top goalies had started to go, and I was not going to get one of them. So that's when I transitioned to putting a couple of tandems together. I had a couple of them lined up, and whichever one fell to me was going to be that one. And I took the Utah guys. I was considering Aiden Hill and that group out there in Vegas, but
Chris took that from you. Joey Decord, the last goalie to go there. And then William Eklund is the last pick of the draft from the San Jose Sharks. I love that because Eklund's already played last year. So it's going to be his second year in the league. So there's not that adjustment. Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini will be adjusting. William Eklund's already done it, and he looked strong last year. That is a guy I'm excited to watch with my San Jose Sharks flex plan this year. But let's recap the draft here. Let's start with let's go with Anthony first. We'll go that way, and then we'll do the Silver Fox perhaps. Let's see. So Ant goes Cale Makar. We talked about him getting that first defenseman, pairing him with our number 4 right wing Matthew Tkachuk, and then let's take it from here, Ant, because I really like your team top to bottom here. I think you built yourself a nice team. Some people may think your goaltending's a little thin, but if Sorokin bounces back, you're very fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for Sorokin to kind of have that bounce back season and for the Islanders to be somewhat, in contention. Maybe it was a state of survival is the Islanders fan, correct? I'm hoping that they have a good season on hand. And once I saw Thatcher Demko go beforehand, I was like, you know what? I think it's time. I would not have went Demko that early, considering that Sorokin, Bobrovsky, even Skinner, probably even Joseph Wall, I would throw in that list. I don't know if I would take Demko over them. I just don't. But
healthy Demko, yes, but mystery injury Demko,
just don't know.
no.
Yeah, we just don't know, and we can't play that game this early into the a fantasy draft. Ovechkin, I finally got with Ovechkin or Sid. I was bound to get one of them in one of these mock drafts. I took Ovechkin here. He's going for that goal record. I think he's going to get it. I think he's going to have a bounce back season this year. Charlie McAvoy to go along with Cale Makar. Kevin Fiala seems to always fall to me, so I'm always going to take him. Jonathan Marchessault as well has been hitting there. And when I saw you panic for defenseman, I said, you know what? I'm going to shore up my defense. So that's why I went Mike Matheson there. Took, I think, Alexis Lafreniere next. If he has anything of the season that he had last year, probably even better. That's a pick that's going to be one of those picks that you're going to want to take. Thomas Hertl for center as well. Connor Ingram was the second goalie in line for me. I really like where I was able to pick up Michkov there, Adam Larson to round out the defense, and I wasn't sure where I was going to go, if I was going to go another backup defenseman, but Nick Schmaltz was just sitting there for me, and he's going to get top line minutes. Always a solid player, and rounded it out with Utah with the Vijmelka.
Now, before we get to Chris's team, I'm going to throw this link in the chat here, everybody. If you want to join the Total Hockey Now League that we're going to be doing a live draft for on Thursday, October 3rd, the link is just dropped in there now. Feel free to sign up. We have up to 12 spots. Some spots are already taken, so get in while you can. And the draft will be Thursday, October 3rd, planning on a 8 o'clock Eastern draft. So
live, right? That's going to be, is that
that's gonna
live?
be a live one. So that Thursday, instead of coming to you at 5, we're going to come at you at 8 with a live draft for the league for the year.
If some of you can't make it, it's fine. Like I will not cry too much because some of you have gotten too good. So go terrorize somebody else. But if you can make it, if your wife lets you out, just hop on in.
Now, Chris, why don't
Be careful,
you run...
Chris. Be nice, because one of these people might be going ahead of you and might be drafting.
No. They started this. I see the same players. Some of them going to the same names around here. So I know some of them. Some of you guys have been doing your homework. That's good. You guys should be joining every pool that you can find. The office pool. The guy stops you at the bus stop and says, "Hey, man, you want to join a pool? Jump in," because some of you are good now. You have been doing the homework. You've been putting in the time. The problem is I want to be in easy leagues. I want to be in leagues with guys who don't know what's going on, or they all take Buffalo Sabre skaters. That's the league I want to be in.
On that note, Thursday Night Football, Tampa Bay, Atlanta could be a big battle for NFC South supremacy and the potential division title implications for later in the season. So you happen to throw that game on and forget, oh, I missed the draft. It's okay. Okay.
Nothing better than watching the Falcons lose and my fantasy team fall apart. Love it.
Now, speaking of fantasy team falling apart there, much like me, your blue line kind of came apart here. Why don't you run us through your draft here, which actually I think your first 4 rounds were excellent.
Once I knew I wasn't getting Cale Makar, Willie Nylander, please play the wing. Kirill Kaprizov, we know it's out of the bag now. Big fan of Kirill. Jake Gensel, he just seems to fall to me. Every time I'm like in that range and I'm looking around, there's old Jake Gensel just hanging out saying, "Hey, I'm going to get 95 points." I'm like, all right. Adrian Kempe had some center designation, so I needed that. I wasn't a fan of Sergei Bobrovsky, but at that point, I needed a goalie. Stanley Cup winning team. Nobody's going to really challenge him. Good. Dylan Larkin, as long as he stays healthy, and who knows what happens in Detroit, that could work out well. Joseph Wall is kind of a goalie that's on a really good team. I just need him to stay healthy, please. Matt Boldy, because why not, right? We also said lots of nice things about Brock Besser. It is criminal for him to be in the 9th here. In a 12-team league in the 9th round, I mean, that's too far for me. That's too far. So I'm like, hey, I kind of have no choice. Uri Slafkovsky, because he's going to get like 70 points this year and throw out 150 hits. Jeff Skinner, just because that's kind of where we were at that point. Aiden Hill, I needed somebody to protect my Joseph Wall investment. I don't know what the disrespect is to Aiden Hill. Like, Ilya Samsonov's the backup there. So I know Hill, if he gets hurt, it's problematic. And then I figured once I saw that green slab just keep going back and forth, I knew I wasn't getting a good defenseman or one that I wanted. So I just said, I'm just going to punt this position completely and make my last 4 picks defensemen. So Bowen Byron, I'm hoping for some upside. Radko Gudas and Jeremy Lauzon, it's really simple. I'm winning the hits category. Every week, it doesn't matter. I need both of them to just like swing their weight around. That's all that's it. If I'm not going to get points from my defensemen, they're going to throw their weight around and hit people. and then Lane Hudson, man. Lane Hudson, I don't know if he's
Yeah.
going to stick right off the rip, but he had a really good, he's good and he's ready. I don't know how many minutes he's going to see. I don't know if he's going to steal the spot from Mike Matheson just yet, but he is an offensive defenseman who can skate. And if I'm going to throw a dart, I'm going there. That's the home run swing for me. If it doesn't pan out, it doesn't pan out. It doesn't matter. But if it works out in the way that I think it does and what Yahoo expects it to work out, they have him at 49 points this season. That is wild for a defenseman, especially a rookie. So taking my chances.
I was trying to push Aiden Hill as much as possible towards the later part of the draft. And as soon as you picked him, I was like, all right, it's time to get the second goalie. I'm surprised Luukkonen went that early up there. That one surprised me. But Chris always does the woe is me part, and he had another good draft. I don't understand. He just missed out on Cale.
Do you not see my 4 defensemen?
Come on,
right,
man.
But you handled it well because
Look at that.
Right, but the defense is the one position where if you take the approach you took, where it's like, hey, I'm not going to have a good defenseman. I'm not going to have an offensive producing defenseman. Fine. You can just let them be the guys that get your blocks and your hits. And that's it. And
I will say this. I will not bend. I am a big believer of what I call the zig and the zag. So when everybody's zigging, you got to zag no matter what. There's value to be found. Go out and find it. I would have taken a defenseman way before, but that middle cluster there, once I saw all those like Brock Faber off the board, Erik Karlsson. I had so many defensemen down low there. I even had Chris Letang on the list, and somebody was like, I'll take him. And I'm like, man, homie, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there were so many defensemen that just started to fall. And if that's the case, stick to it, right? You'll be in a league one day where you'll be able to make trades. So you'll be able to go out and get the value that you may have lost. But I will not bend to that, I got to get a guy here because at that point, you're behind the train, right? You're way behind. You're not going to get the value. Collect where else, right? I got Brock Besser at a good discount. I feel like I got Uri Slafkovsky at a good discount. Matt Boldy, Jeff Skinner. I feel like that upside there is okay, my defense won't be good, but I got 24 weeks of fantasy hockey to figure it out.
There was a lot of zigzagging in the strategy here today from me as well. You have to change where you're going. And, it ended up, working out. But you're going to take the best forward possible if he's 10 times better than the defensemen that are left. That's just the way it is. Same thing if it's the opposite way.
It's a good problem to have too many good players on your fantasy team, right? It's a good problem to have when you're trying to figure out who you're going to start on a Saturday. I know some people don't want to break their heads. This is fantasy, okay? Don't treat this like your job. This is more important. You got to, really bucker down there and try to figure out some of the matchups. And again, if you have good players, that means there's an owner somewhere who doesn't. Find him and take his defenseman.
Speaking of defensemen, let's get to my draft. So through the first 5 rounds, love my draft. Brady, Tkachuk, Evan Bouchard, Vasilevsky, Eichel, Jesper Bratt. I'm happy as a clam. This is where it goes off the rails for me. I got tempted by, trying to do the Vasilevsky Skinner pairing. What I should have done is taken either Heiskanen, Sergachev, or McAvoy, one of those few that went later. Because this is where the draft just kind of goes off the rails for me, because you just see all that green in round 6 and round 7. And then I did do a little bit of the panic thing round 8. I see Luke Hughes, but at least Luke Hughes has a chance, even if he's going to start the year off hurt. I stash him on the IR. I find another defenseman to fill the void, and that's fine. So there we go. Let me get that off the screen, and then I will bring up my team in a second here on the other screen.
When you went Skinner, my thought process was Heiskanen, Sergachev, and McAvoy. I'm getting one of those guys because the other two might have went ahead of me. But I was going to at least get one of those guys in defense once you made that Skinner move.
Once I saw defenseman going, I'm like, oh, man, Adam's behind the ball, isn't he? It's happening.
Sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and Adam's chasing defenseman. There's just no news there. After that Skinner pick, my run goes. So I take Clayton Keller, who I'm fine with getting in the 7th round. Kind of have to reach for Hughes a tiny bit there. But, again, as a second defenseman, once he's back and playing, I'm okay with that. I don't feel like I necessarily chase defenseman there. Drew Doughty's a 3 defenseman, but I do get Heishier there, so I'm gonna rely on my forwards to really produce. Drake Batherson, Robert Thomas, Jake DeBrusque. At that point, the Logan Cooley was a spite pick. What I should have probably did was taken Lane Hudson because he's probably going to get a chance to start the year, and then depending upon what happens with him, depending on how long he's up there, maybe he bridges the gap to Luke Hughes a little bit. I don't know.
You tried to spite me, but you took the wrong guy.
Correct. So just not
when you needed a defenseman, you still took the wrong guy. He's like, hey, I'll show you by taking the wrong player when I needed something else, though. But I'll show you, Chris.
Do not let spite be a motivator in your picks. Lesson learned. And don't wait on defensemen, and don't let spite be a motivator. That is how you draft. You do those 2 things, you'll be okay.
The only person who didn't wait on defensemen out of the 3 of us was that. Everybody else in this league, all the other 10 managers was like, hey, we're just going to take defensemen when we should.
I just feel like there's maybe like you guys like all talked before the show, and there's a big joke on me, and then there we go, and then I'm left, happy to have Luke Hughes at that point.
You still got Evan Bouchard, top 3 defenseman too.
It's true. You have nothing to complain about.
Fair.
You do have an elite defenseman. Your problem was you took an extra Oiler, and that's usually the problem.
Look, you got the top defense, one of the top defensemen, top 3 in Evan Bouchard. If Luke Hughes gets healthy and improves upon last season, that'll be another good pick down there. Drew Doughty is a 3rd or 4th defenseman, so that's fine there. Justin Falk, those 2 guys,
I recovered, but it was bad for a little while. It was
the panic set in.
I was Chicken Little for a while. The sky was indeed falling.
But you got Logan Cooley, so technically you win the draft, right? So
of course, again, don't let spite be a motivator.